I'd like to talk about the shift, the transformation from the dualistic experience to what is called the non-dual seeing, the non-dual taste. So initially, the experience is that this object, the body, has its own autonomous and independent existence, as do all of the other objects. And this existence itself lives inside of these various objects that are perceived. And that is where life exists. It exists in the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. But in this grace that we have all been given, what has revealed itself is that there is something that is aware of these objects. And that what is aware of the objects has this constant flavor, whereas the experience inside the object is always changing. Inside the object called me, the thoughts are always changing, the sensations are always changing, the situations are always changing, the emotions are always changing. It is a constant flux of change, while there is something that is aware of all of it. And as soon as that is felt, there is the feeling of something constant. When there is the feeling into myself, in the absence of the habit of conditioning, what is felt is that constant sense. There is a sense that this constant sense, a recognition that this is not altered by the constant changing of the object that originally was perceived as the only place where there was life. And what is aware of this object, this awareness, it is impossible to find objects in the awareness, but the awareness is felt all over, everywhere. And when one begins falling into what is aware on a more regular basis, when the habit of living inside the contraction begins to weaken, there is this revelation that is initially quite mind-blowing. And that is that these objects are dependent on the awareness for their existence. In other words, as soon as the awareness vanishes, so too do the objects. It happens every time you go to sleep. As soon as you wake up in the morning, you say, I was just sleeping, but I was always here. But as you get used to resting in what is aware, what is discovered is that the awareness, the subject, and the object must be present for either to be present. This is the dualistic experience in its largest sense. You cannot have an object without a subject. As soon as the subject stops witnessing, there is the disappearance of the object. As soon as it shifts from this omnipresent to this localized witnessing presence, there is the reappearance of all of the objects. And it is on again and off again and on again and off again. It is no longer dependent on sleep, on dreamless sleep. It begins to be the experience throughout the life, on again and off again. Physics has come to show us that an electron, which is the building block of all matter, exists as a solid entity when there is an observer. And as soon as the observer leaves, the electron disappears. This is like nothing new when one has gotten used to living out of the space that is aware of the play. The entirety of the play, instead of looking so big, begins feeling very small. That which is aware of it, being felt as a co-creator. And then there is silence, which is another word for the self, which is not something that the object hears. There is no object in it. There is no subject in it. It is silence. It is felt in the heart. The subject-object dynamic can appear, but it appears as an appearance. It is in no relationship whatsoever with the feeling of silence. The deeper the immersion, the more the appearance appears as pure light, as pure beauty. And when it is appearing with the old gunk, arises the witness out of the subject. That frees the hypnosis. And then there is a deeper falling into the silence, which is in no relationship with any of it, but creates the space for the appearance of all of it. And each time some aspect of karma that created the experience that this object is someone and independent and exists on its own and is separate from everything, each time some aspect rolls around in the dreamscape, and this subject transforms into this witness, and it is seen out of what is still and changeless. Another link is freed, and the effortless falling into the silence becomes deeper, and the taste becomes more luminous and more beautiful, more love-drenched. It is not that there is change in this silence. It is not that there is change in the self. It is that the hypnosis is continuing to be freed and released. And in this, the nectar is being revealed in greater fullness and completion. This is the realization of the self. There is no observer in it. There is no subject-object. There is something right now that is aware of everything that is going on. As soon as the habit of contraction is released, it is felt. And it can be felt that even that has an orientation. It is subtlest aspect of mind. But silence, the feeling of silence, this has no orientation at all.